Okay, so when you open the file, it'll look something on the lines of this. If you want to navigate around the viewport, this is the viewport over here. If you want to navigate around it, just hold down the middle mouse button. So you know the scroll wheel, just hold it down and you'll be able to look around, and then obviously if you scroll, you'll be able to go in and out. If you hold shift and then hold down the middle mouse button, you can go along. So with these three things, you can navigate basically the whole thing and just like, go wherever you want. Now you'll see that there's a lot of intersection going on here. That's what that's on purpose, because you'll see that one of them is a lot more complex than the other one, and I have overlapped them. And the reason for that is because when the simulation is running, it doesn't really need all these tiny complex vertices to run off of. It just runs off of the simple mesh. So this is the simple one over here. So it's dumbed down a lot. Just the basic bare bone of geometry is on this one, whereas the other one is more for the aesthetics. Now if you click over here onto this fourth one, it says viewport shading, so you just click onto that. May take a second, and it will just compile all the shaders, compile all the images, everything you need. It'll compile it, and now it'll be fully textured. If you want to make it a little bit faster, just make sure that the side is cycles and then GPU compute. Right, so you know how to move around, you know to make sure that that's GPU, you know how to see the textures. Now, the first thing I'll teach you is just how to make it look however you like. So over on the side, this will already be open, so you just scroll in and out and you just move the middle mouse button. Same thing as this one. So let's just say you wanted to change this texture into the ground and the dirt one. So you just move this mix shader factor to 1. And then it will compile, and then it will make it so that all of it is the right thing, and it will be the other color that I had set. If you wanted to change the color, you can also do that. Oh yeah, see, it's synced up. So if you wanted to change the color, you can also do that. So you can just, hypothetically, if you want to make the ground, let's say, make it look like it's, I don't know, like purple, or like it's just, let's just say like it's just snowed. So you turn the saturation down on everything. And I'll make it look more pale. Just, just play around with it, I guess. Yeah, so you can change it to whatever you like. And then obviously the topology one is up here, so if you wanted to just change it back, you could just make it 0, and you could just change it back like that. If you want it to sync in real time instead of like constantly, do that, then you can just go on the third one, which is a viewport display, and that will just render out an Eevee, so that way you can change it in real time. You can see how it'll look. It's not the real color, it's not what it's really going to look like, but it's just a lot faster to visualize it really quickly before you move on with your next step. So whatever this is changed to, don't worry, it won't be like this. I'll give you the file that I started off with, so anything that I mess up, it's fine. Yeah, so let's just say you want to keep it on the topology map, and you now want to change this transparency. So you just click onto this, and then you just scroll out, move it around, and you'll see that there is this principled BDSF shader. It's really easy. All you have to do is just drag this transmission up to 1 or 0, and then everything in between. So if you put it as 1 or 0.8, then it will just be transparent. The transparency won't work with this display mode. It will only work with this one. Yeah, so that's just like one little drawback that you have to like look past. But yeah, so let me just turn this off, see if that's any faster. No. So basically that's just how you get the transparency. If you want fully transparent, you can just go 1. If you want to hide it altogether, then just make this completely white, and it's, well, you only see the shadow that way. And if you want to completely like hide it, then you just go over here and you just untick these two. And now just untick the camera, the DSL outlet as well. Yep, so that's the one. And then now it will just be completely gone. So there's no boundary now. Yeah, let's just add it back just to, see it. So the one on the left is to see in the viewport, the one on the right, the DSLR camera logo, is to see in the render. So you don't really need to change the render ones right now, but yeah. So let's just go back onto the solid view, and we'll just double check that grid 1 doesn't have any collisions. Yep. So you just go into grid 2, make sure that it has the rigid body passive. So the rigid body is on the grid 2 and grid 1 has nothing. So grid 1 is basically invisible to the rigid body weld. So basically now if you want to run the rain simulation, you make sure this is ticked in rain particles, and you'll see there are like thousands and thousands of it. So basically you would just have to tick that. It's already ticked in the file, but now you'll see that there are rain particles over here. Just make sure you're on frame 1 because it only shows up on frame 1. So all these rain particles are all individual, and basically it's just a really dense matrix of just like the most basic ball geometry. If you just press full stop, it will zoom in on one thing if you really wanted to see it. This is the most basic form of sphere, so I tried minimizing the geometry as much as I could, including the ground. Remember how I made the ground really, really basic? So that's also a part of it as well. And so basically all you have to do is just go into this one over here where it says it's like a cone, a sphere, and like a little sphere back there. Make sure this rigid body weld is ticked. Go into cache and just set the end frame however many frames you want. So right now it's 500, so I can make this 250 for the simulation. And so now it's 250 frames, so I can just make it like that. And then I just add in the same amount of frames for this end over here. And then I just click bake. Now, if I clicked bake, my entire thing will crash, so I'll let you do that. But if it works out fine, I think it'll maybe take around like 2-3 minutes per frame, but hypothetically, if it does work out fine, you just go onto here, you just highlight everything. Give it a sec for my computer. Just highlight everything. Just drag over it. I don't know why that's not selecting. Right, so this is plan B. Just basically like any file browser, you would just go down, you just press shift, click, right, and now if you want to duplicate it, you just press shift D, right, so I just press shift D and move your mouse slightly, and don't click anything, just don't do anything, just move your mouse very slightly. It'll do its thing. It'll definitely be faster on your computer, but it'll do its thing, and hopefully it doesn't crash. Just give it a second. It's copying like 20,000 pieces of geometry, so it'll take a bit. Right, so it's copied. Now I can move around, and I just press Z on my keyboard so that it only moves in the Z axis, and I just maybe put it over there. If it was quite quick for you, then if you press Shift R, it will repeat the action. So if you press Shift R now, if I did it, it would probably crash, but if you press Shift R, this will copy up and it will make the exact step. And a bonus is that you don't have to do anything. All of these have the exact same physics properties, everything. So I'm just going to press Control Z just so that copying goes away. Right, so now I have these pieces of geometry so I can at least move around. If the drops are too bouncy, not bouncy enough, too like they don't roll around too much, anything like that, you go into grid 2, you go into this one, like a planet orbiting another planet, and you just go on the surface response. You can turn up the bounciness, you can turn up the friction, you can not really that much more, but basically just, yeah, you can just turn up the friction, you can turn up the bounciness, and you can see based on that how the droplets react, how they, how they move around and stuff. I have tuned in the effects as much as I could for like a couple droplets, but obviously with all these, they'll interact with each other, they'll interact with the floor, they'll interact with everything, so it may or may not react the way that you want it to. But yeah, so just basically see how that goes and see how the droplets fall down, and if obviously it works out fast, then you can just duplicate it and keep duplicating it and just make like a cube or a sheet of just rain, and then it will constantly fall onto this one part, and you'll see how it flows down the things as well. A bonus is that this thing over here, this piece of geometry over here, this isn't affecting this at all, so it's completely invisible, so all the rain will go through this boundary line. This is just for your reference. You can press H to hide it completely if you want, or just Alt H to unhide it. Yeah, so I hope that's all, but I think that's it. Just one other thing, if you wanted to like make an animation out of it or something, then I'm just going to turn off rigid body weld for now, but you can turn it back on, just so that my thing doesn't simulate, so it actually runs kind of fast. If you wanted to make an animation based on the color, based on anything like that, you would just click on the actual thing. You would go around onto this this panel over here, and let's just say that you wanted a black and white thing that you just wanted to move it to, just for my just for reference. So you'd move that there. You'd just make this black. You'd make this white. Right, and you just test it out. So 1, cool. So I'll just go into this view, so that way it's easier for me to visualize, you know, what I'm doing. So yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, like I could maybe put like the black a little bit lower, like that. Maybe add in like another gray, like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm just gonna wave over this 1 over here and just press I on my keyboard, the letter I, and then maybe by frame 50 I want it to be the rainbow one, so I just press I again on frame 50, and now anything in between, it will just automatically shift. So if I played it right now for you, it would look something like this. And obviously you can move these keyframes around, so if I wanted it like over there, and then maybe if I just, you know, if I wanted to have some fun with it, I could just do something like that, and then it just shifts between the two textures. I hope I covered everything. Yeah, I hope I covered everything. If you have any questions, if you have anything, then let me know. If you want to render it, I'll show you how to do that now. So if you want to render it, you just go into the rendered, this one right here, the rendered view, and I'll just render out a nice scene for you. That way you can, yeah. So that way you can, you know, like just get reference as to what it would actually look like. So maybe something like this is a nice view. So I just press Shift A, and then click Camera. And then nothing will happen. It will just come up with this. So then press Control Alt number pad 0, and now it will show up with this outline. And then now I can go camera view, and then I can move it around, and I can see what I think is a good scene. So I think maybe something like this would be a good scene. So I just untick this. I just move it around, see how it looks. Delete that, it was an accident. Right, so I have this camera over here, and if I go press 0 on my number pad, then it will show me the thing that I had set. If you want to change lights or anything, I can do another tutorial about that, but for now it should be fine. So basically you have the camera set up, you have the angle set up. If you want like depth of field or anything, this is like extra above and beyond stuff, but if you're curious as to making it look, I don't know, like different, then you can increase the depth of field or decrease it, and then make it look however you like. Just go into Eevee to see it more easily. Alright, so something like maybe there, and then just increase the focus. Like that maybe. Yeah, so then when it renders out, it'll look like that, but obviously better because it's in cycles. It's ray traced. So once you're happy with all those settings, you can go into this one, change the resolution, change the aspect ratio, anything you like. I'm happy with this, so I just do that. Actually, I'll just leave it so that's easier for you to see. Go into Edit, Preferences, Interface, Temporary Editors, and make sure you render in the image editor. By default, it's new window, but make sure it's image editor for you. That way you can follow the tutorial better. So you see this, you just go into, just click just the flat shaded one, just to make it easier for the computer. Render image, and now you just scroll out. Same thing, same navigation for everything, and you just wait for it to render. I'm just gonna render it at 600, just so that it's. Actually, I'll render it at 200. That way that way I can show you how to save it as well. Sweet. So just render image. And this was on here, like that. So I'm just rendering out this image. It's just almost done. And then after it's rendering, it will denoise as well, so you don't have to worry about like the noise. So there's all this noise over here. I'm pretty sure it'll go away. Yep, so it's all gone. So now you have this render, beautiful render. And if you want to save it, you just go Image, Save As, and then you can just save it wherever you like. Yeah, I hope I covered everything. If you have any more questions, let me know. But I think that should be fine with like all the simulation and everything. Yeah, but just don't overdo it with the simulation because it's gonna take like 5 minutes per frame. And make sure you don't press play. Don't ever press the space bar. Don't ever press play. If you ever want to simulate it, click Rigid Body World and make sure you click Bake. If you press space, the entire Blender instance will crash and you'll have to restart whatever you were doing. And if you press Bake, then if it does take too long, if it does this, like you can still press Escape on your keyboard and it will cancel it without jeopardizing the entire file. So yeah, press Bake. Make sure you always press Bake. Yeah, so just don't ever press play. Don't press this play button. Press Bake. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, the colors I explained. What else was I gonna explain? Texture. Yeah, I told you to change texture. I told you how to change the transparency. Told you how to control the sim, and baking. Yep. So just make sure you press Bake, and yeah, that should be good as gold.